stink came out of Wisconsin. And I don't mean that nasty, but a big stink came out. Supposedly, the end of December, some of the officials from the WIAA, which is their association, Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association, kind of a sportsmanship guide, how you're supposed to find it. What happened was a girl saw the little email that came out, and she said, "This is full of Schmidt." I'm gonna adjust that a little bit, okay?
Gotcha.
Anyway, the WIAA sent that to her school, and the WIAA supposedly says, "Well, we're just showing you this," but they ended up. This girl was the leading scorer on the team. They're a winning team. They suspended her for 5 games for her tweet. The rules of the Wisconsin, it's on StatelineSportsHub.com. You can find it's underneath the analysis part. It gives you rules of what you can do and not do at a game. You can't go like nuts and bolts. USA means something else different. You suck, America, something like that. I didn't know that. Did you? I thought they were just being patriotic. What's some other? Like missing the free throws. You can't scream during that. You got to do that. And they got 32 pages of rules in Wisconsin. Well, Jay Billis from ESPN got on the bandwagon, and it went viral big time. And when you go out and you look at all this stuff, you're going, there's not enough kids going to games now. If you tell them they can't have any fun or do anything, right? And most of that stuff, both sides do it, and I don't think it's like they're not swearing or.
For the most part, honestly, most of the kids are usually really the games I see. Kids are usually pretty good about that stuff. They actually get creative with it and all that. But
like the newspapers, you can't put the newspapers up when they're announcing.
Yes,
who buys a newspaper anymore? I guess
right. Yeah, exactly. Newspaper industry's probably not happy about that, and it's the one time they get bought. But
I mean, they're telling these kids they can't do that, and it really hit. It's like 32 pages of rules.
That's ridiculous. You got to let the kids have fun. And now they don't need to be nasty. And if you see that going on or hear that, then you kick them out of the game. You cut that out, that kind of stuff.
But those little cheers I hear them so many times. I don't even think about them anymore.
No, you don't. And like I said, a lot of the schools, they get creative with it, but nothing nasty. They don't attack anybody personally. That
you can't say nah, hey, goodbye anymore.
It's
the way some of them sing it, I would quit. But
it's kind of ridiculous. And I do think there's certain and talking more like the college level one. There's certain fan bases that maybe go a little over the top, or you hear that are pretty nasty.
They go nasty with those sticks that they do when they're shooting free throws and stuff.
Yeah. But even that kind of stuff doesn't bother me, because I can tell you that the players aren't paying any attention to that when they're shooting a free throw. If they miss a free throw, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. If that bothers them, they got a problem.
Exactly. if that bothers them, they're not going to be on the floor. I can tell you that. But I mean, there's some stuff, the charging the court at the college level is stupid. They need to cut that out.
That guy broke his leg a couple weeks ago in Iowa,
exactly.
at the Iowa State game.
So some of that's ridiculous. So, I got no problem with some rules in place, but I mean, to cut out some of those chances. They're just it's kids having fun,
She got 5 games for that was set in from the Athletic Association. Somebody had to turn her in.
But you're right, though. If they do that, they're going to... Kids will stop coming. I know,
they're stopped coming already, most of them.
A couple years after I graduated from high school, I know Harlem had tried doing something similar for a few years where, they were basically just telling the kids to just sit there and watch the game, and that was it. And, I was in town, went to a game, one night, there was no students there on a Friday night, which...
That's bad.
That's bad, But that's the thing. They told them not to. So, instead of going there, because, you could have kids go there and kind of fight the system and, say, hey, if you're going to kick me out kind of thing. But no, they just say, we're just not going to show. If you're not going to let us have fun, we're just not going to show.
There's one student section in Wisconsin, like 2 days later, posted a shot, and they were at the game. They all had duct tape on their mouth.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I like it, yeah.
But, like in Ohio, and I know that's where I'm from, anyway, during tournament, you're not allowed to have, the cheerleaders can't have pom-poms, you can't have noisemakers, and you can't have a band there.
Right.
I mean, that's taking the fun out of high school sports.
It is,
I could stay home, watch it on TV, and have more fun.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's sad that, I understand the thought process behind it, because it does, and it's certain, the bullying is really big right now, and stopping that. And there are instances, just not just in sports where, kids can get really nasty. So I know the thought process behind it is, let's just try to keep things as safe as possible, but, at the same time, you got to let the kids have some fun.
32-page booklet.
Yeah, I don't think you need 32 pages to try to make sure kids are having proper fun. So.
And then the association comes out, well, we didn't change any rules, da-da-da-da-da. Tell that to the girl that got 5-game suspension for saying...
And that was on her Twitter?
Yeah, and what she did was, how nowadays you can make a copy of whatever you want to do instead of write, because you can't write so many letters. She posted what the email said and put full of, on there. And they sent that to the school, and the school basically probably thought, well, they must mean business. So 5 games, she's scoring 15 points a game. She's an honor student, never been in trouble, and she got in trouble for that. I'm going, oh my gosh, that's...
And I'm not a big fan of Twitter. I like what it could do, getting scores out, things like that, but generally speaking, I'm not a big fan because I do think people put stuff on there they should. But she probably shouldn't have said that. But I also don't think she should be suspended 5 games for that, putting it on her Twitter feed. She'll have to deal with her own consequences down the road for stuff she might put on there. I don't know if she's being recruited by colleges, that kind of stuff, that might look at that and say, maybe that's not the person we want in our program. But at the end of the day, it's her own, private social media thing. I mean,
it's her thought too.
Exactly. I mean, what's the difference if she writes it somewhere or whatever? It's, that's ridiculous too. I do think people, she probably shouldn't have put that on Twitter. I think people put a lot of stuff on Twitter they shouldn't put on Twitter, but I also don't think she should be suspended 5 games for it.
You know what she did? She didn't take it off.
I don't blame her.
She says, I'm not taking it off.
I don't blame her.
I got punished for it. I'm going to leave it on there.
Yeah, exactly.
And she proved a point.
Yeah.
When you get national attention on stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's very, very weird. And like I said, I get the intent behind it, but you don't need 32 pages to...
It tells you which ones you shouldn't use, too. Can you imagine an administrator sitting there and having to...
Right. Listen to what you're saying to tell you if it's the right one or not. Yeah.
Did you want to calm it down and be polite? And then Jay put on there a couple of the nice, polite ways of saying, please don't make that free throw. You might beat us or something like that.
Right. It's simple. Don't use, swear words.
Yeah.
Don't attack somebody personally.
Yeah.
Once you get past that,
You mean like airball?
Yeah. And don't be, don't say anything.
You think airball's bad? I don't. It's just a little reminder that
you
shoot like crap,
Yeah.